Let's just dive right into this explainer because today we're cracking open the invisible systems of money. Look, if you've ever felt like the financial game is playing you instead of, the other way around, you're exactly where you need to be. I am so pumped to take you through this. We're going to break down the systems, the secrets, and the actual practical solutions to finally mastering your money.
So let's start with a scenario we've probably all felt at some point. Picture this. Imagine you just had a brutal month at work. Maybe you're slaving away flipping burgers at the local McDonald's. You're exhausted, lying in bed, and bing, you get an email. You've been paid $2,000. Awesome, right? But then you check your actual bank account, and it only says $1,456. Wait, what? You scroll down your pay stub, federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. Boom, it's gone. This right here is the painful, modern ritual of handing over a huge chunk of your hard-earned cash to these invisible forces. Now look, taxes are the cost of civilization. They fund our roads, schools, health infrastructure, but man, it still hurts. Social Security is basically the government forcing you to save for retirement right now, and Medicare supports health insurance. But the reality is, it's a massive chunk of your wealth gone before you even get to touch it.
Which brings us to Section 1, the illusion of money.
Now, you might be wondering, is money actually real? Well, the wild truth about currency is that it's really just a social construct. Seriously, it's built entirely on shared belief and trust. Think about it. There is literally no more inherent legitimacy to a dollar bill than there is to a random stick on the ground. The only reason that dollar bill can buy you a nice dinner and the stick can't is because we as a society have collectively agreed that the dollar bill has value. The government prints it, central banks regulate it so it doesn't just turn into worthless monopoly money through inflation, and we trade it. But at its absolute core, it's an illusion that we all just kind of agree to believe in.
That takes us to Section 2, the truth about banks.
Okay, so you walk in, hand the teller your cash, and you probably think, great, my money is sitting safe in a vault, guarded by a dragon. Yeah, nope, not at all. In reality, banks are just middlemen. They act as matchmakers. When you deposit $1,000, the bank uses a system called fractional reserve banking. Basically, they keep a tiny, tiny fraction on hand and immediately lend out, say, $900 to someone else who wants to go buy a jet ski. They only keep that little fraction because they know not everyone is going to show up on the exact same day to withdraw everything. Well, unless it's a 2008 scenario or the whole system kind of crumbles, right? But normally, they make their profits simply by lending your money out at a higher rate than they're paying you to hold it.
So how does that matchmaking actually work? It's through something called interest. And really, interest is simply money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. When you borrow money, that's the price tag for using someone else's cash. You're paying rent. But, and here's the good part, when you lend or save your money, interest becomes your reward for being patient and, let's face it, a little bit boring.
Now, there are two ways this plays out. Simple interest is just a flat fee, easy enough. But compound interest, oh man, that is where every dollar you earn gets little clones, and then those clones also want rent. Let's say you owe 20% on a credit card and you miss a payment. Your interest starts earning interest, and suddenly your $12 late-night burrito turns into a $50 regret. It's brutal. But on the flip side, if you're earning, say, a 7% annual compound interest on investments, it's literally like a cheat code. Your money continuously duplicates itself over time. It is the silent engine behind both crushing debt and massive wealth.
Moving right along to Section 3, the silent wealth killers.
And this perfectly brings us to inflation. Imagine you buy a bag of chips, pop it open and realize it looks half-eaten. And on top of that, you check the receipt and realize you paid 30% more than last time. That, my friends, is inflation. It's the slow, quiet erosion of your money's value over time. It doesn't happen overnight with fireworks. It's just a slow fade. Your $5 bill is still technically a $5 bill, but it buys less gas and fewer instant noodles. Why? Well, sometimes everyone has cash and wants the exact same stuff. If 2,000 people want a $500 TV, but the store only has 1,000 of them in stock, the price naturally goes up to $800. Supply chain hiccups or even just the public's expectation that prices are going to rise can cause this weird, self-fulfilling economic prophecy.
And then we have recessions. Think of the economy as a massive party during the boom phase. Everyone's out dancing, spending is high, drinks are flowing, but eventually the lights flicker, reality hits, and suddenly the DJ is playing sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. A recession is basically when the economy decreases for at least 2 quarters straight. Jobs vanish, and people start hoarding their money for necessities instead of buying things they really don't need. This party crash can be triggered by high interest rates, some global crisis, or just the natural boom and bust cycle doing what it does best. It's a painful reset for sure, but remember, recessions aren't forever. Eventually, businesses rebuild and the spending party returns.
Section 4, rigging the financial game. Okay, first up in rigging the game, the credit score.
This is that shadowy, behind-the-scenes algorithm that spits out a 3-digit number between 300 and 850. Score below 580, you're essentially a walking red flag to lenders. Over 750, you are sparkling with adult credibility. This number is calculated based on 5 main things: your payment history, your credit utilization, the age of your credit, your mix of accounts, and your new credit applications. Honestly, think of your credit score exactly like a pet dog. If you ignore it, it poops all over your life, sticking you with a soul-crushing 27% interest rate on a new TV. But if you actually take care of it, someday it might just help you buy a house. Ultimately, it's not about being inherently good with money. It's just about proving your trustworthiness to the lenders.
Now, the next massive cheat code is totally changing how you view time. See, most of us just trade time for money. 1 hour of work equals 1 paycheck. It's simple math. But the top earners, they do something entirely different. They trade money for money through investing. Guys, there is no greater force in wealth building than this. It's not magic, it's definitely not luck, it's simply making your money work for you. Money that just sits quietly in an investment multiplies, slowly at first and then faster and faster. This is exactly how ordinary people build 7-figure wealth over a few decades.
But what are you actually buying when you invest? Well, here are your main vehicles to escape that inflation trap we talked about earlier. You can buy stocks, which are basically tiny ownership slices of a real company. You can buy bonds, which is essentially you loaning your money to a government or a big entity so they can pay you back with interest later. You can buy funds, collections of stocks and bonds, so you don't have to play those risky financial games trying to pick winners one by one. Or you can buy real estate, hoping someone else pays to live in your property forever. The real danger here isn't the risk of the stock market going up and down. The real danger is watching inflation quietly steal your future value simply because you never invested at all.
Now, let's say you're working at Taco Bell and you've got some extra cash lying around. You might be really tempted to act like that one friend we all have, the one who constantly tries to time the market, buying and selling crypto or stocks, just trying to catch the perfect wave. Listen to me on this. It is practically impossible to time the market. In the long run, that friend usually goes broke. The much smarter play is to stop the nonsense, put a solid chunk of cash into a high-yield savings account for emergencies, and then put the rest into index funds. Doing this automatically splits your money across a ton of different stocks, giving you instant diversification and way lower risk.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate investment.
To truly master the game of money, we have to understand the concept of value. Now, value is really just a human perception of worth. Imagine you pick up an average gray rock off the ground. Okay, now imagine that rock is super shiny and bright yellow. Boom, that's gold. But here's the thing, it's not actually fundamentally worth more than the average rock in any functional sense. It's just worth more to humans because we place a much higher value on its rarity. This perception of value is exactly how innovators like Steve Jobs became incredibly wealthy creating the iPhone. It's why brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton can sell a handbag for 100 times the price of a standard bag from Target. If you can provide or even just project massive value, people will gladly pay you massive amounts of money for it.
So out of all these financial vehicles we've covered, Bitcoin, stocks, gold, real estate, index funds, what is the single best investment in human history? The answer is simple: yourself. That one is absolutely priceless. Equipping yourself with high-value skills, learning how to leverage your time, and actually understanding these invisible financial systems, that is the true secret to building long-term wealth. No market crash, no sudden inflation spike, and no devastating recession can ever take your skills away from you.
Which brings us to our final thought. These invisible systems, they're always running in the background of our lives. The fractional reserves, the compound interest clones, the shadowy credit algorithms, the silent inflation thief. The only question now is this: will you let the financial system play you? Or will you learn the rules and rig it back? The choice is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you leave here today feeling totally empowered to take absolute control of your financial future.